Hi there. So I'm Eric. I'm the LCP of New York City. I'm here with like the steering team. We had like some amazing content. So for as far as like the finance content is concerned, I helped make it. I made it. So for today, I'd like to go through briefly the budgeting tool, how to use it, the importance, and how to really interpret the numbers and analytics and all of that. So I will just go here, share screen. So as you see here, you have the budgeting tool that the MC gave us a few months ago during WNC or right before it. So how you use it, you go there, you pick your LC. So New York City, because like I've done the math on that one already. You go there, you choose LC, whatever. Then you will end up finding your budgeting tool here. As soon as it loads, I can show you it. Awesome, cool. It froze for a little bit, but we're back. So for the finance output, I'll just go through what I wrote down in terms of how to use it. The first thing is you go to Expa. You should be checking that every day. You look at last year's performance in terms of OGV, IGV, all of it. And then you compare that to what you wrote down here, because at this point in the LCP term, the expense detail and the revenue detail should be filled in as completely as possible. So for here in the pink, you see the revenue, the number of exchanges. So you see 23, 17, all of this stuff are the number of exchanges that we should have. Now, ideally, these numbers should be within 15 to 20% growth from last year. Now, on here, you have both the good and bad ways, examples of this. Last year, we did 4 IGV. This year, we're budgeting for 23. Now, that is a very bad way to look to like budget for stuff because it's not very pessimistic since we've only done 4. Now, and same for IGE since we haven't done IGE last year. However, when you go to OGX, you see OGT and OGE, when you put them together, is 53. That is about a 25% growth from last year. And OGV, although a substantial growth from last year, is not a substantial growth from 2015 when we had 71 to begin with, or 71 total. So OGX here are like how you should be budgeting. ICX is how here, specifically IGV and IGE, is a bad example of how to budget. So then next you need to go to the revenue detail, see all of that, make sure it is the right amount of growth. And for every LC is different because 10 to 15, 20% growth from 2 exchanges isn't really applicable. That would be 3 exchanges, and that's not the kind of growth that we want. The 10-15, the 15-20 is more so to people who have done 20, 30, 40 more ish exchanges, as that kind of relative growth is also a strong enough absolute growth to be budgeting for. Otherwise, you're saying you did 2, and then you're going to budget for 3, as opposed to budgeting for what you know at the very least you can do. Stuff like that. So then you have here, you have to compare by hand all of that stuff. You need, as you see here, I will explain I'll explain what this is, but you see here the revenue, all of this stuff. You compare by hand this revenue. So subtotal, OG, revenue here. Total exchanges to 73, $500 fee. Our royalty is 25%, so this is a 0.75 that we keep. So that's 27,375 that we will be taking back after our royalties. So then you will go to your budget. So then you will go to your budget here under OGV, and you see it's the same amount. You do this for every single function, right? You do that by hand. You look at all of that. Next, you go to the expense detail, and you look at all of these expenses. And then same thing, you put it into a sheet or a paper, and you account for all of that. So what does that mean? So that means that, as you see here, OGV specific expenses is group pricing, OPSN, big ads. So I'll list them here. You do that for every function. GE and GT, for the purpose of this, are separate. Then you have your general expenses, so R&R, EBCO, LCP Summit, ROCks, all of that. However, as you see under IGE or IGT, since it's the same function, under the same VP rather, in New York City, is the America's Congress Fee and Summit. Since that is a IGT specific thing, since our VP is going to that, we will expense that to his IGT line, as opposed to a general line like ROCks, because that is across the board. You can't really expense it, since you don't know where your members would be coming from when you budget for 900. You do that, and then you will make sure that these expenses are the same expenses as this, and they total to the same. So then you go to the budget, you scroll down, total, you have 70,950.24 as total expenses. And then you would go here. Where is it here? And then 70,950. So fairly similar numbers. Let me just zoom out so I can see where I am. Budget. 70,950. 70,950. Next, you go here, and here's the important part. And this is what we've done before. The royalty, you picked it here. Revenue, you find all of this. It's also in your budget. Then the next, so you can, if you've done that, you skip this part. Next, you account for this expenses, which is very important. So you have here your affiliation fee. New York City is 41,000, and our total general from over at the right, if you remember, is 12,450. So the difference is for general, you split it between every one of your exchange functions. For the affiliation fee, you split it between all functions except for IGV. So because New York City runs IGV, we only split it between 5, which is both GEs, both GTs, and OGV. So 5 exchangers, whereas general is 6. Then you have here, you have your subtotals, you have their share, every exchanger's function of the affiliation fee, and every exchanger's portion of the general fee. And then general expenses, rather. You add it all up. Remember, IGV has no affiliation fee. You add it up, and then you get your total OGV, total everything expenses, total expenses over at the right. Then you go here. And then lastly, you calculate the net profit. So what is the net profit? The net profit is, assuming that you did this correctly, you have these expenses, again, compared to your budget. This is the important part. You have to compare your expense details here, the specifics, and then here overall to what you have here. And I've done the math. It works for, as far as this chart is concerned. Revenue, same thing. You take this, compare it back to your revenue detail, as well as here. Here I did the math for me. So administration fee is, as you see here, IGE and IGV revenue. Sourcing is IGT, and so on. So long down the line, you have all of that. I will just go here and compare it to these. It matches up. So my revenue is also correct. So back to net profit. As you see here, you have OGV expense, OGV revenue. Net profit is revenue minus expense. You do this for all of them, and then total here of your net profit. You can compare that to your budget. Whereas here, our net surplus is then 26,049.76. So there's all of that. Now, the important part, how do you interpret this? How you interpret this is OGV is going to make a profit of $14,000. Okay. However, OGE, IGE, and IGV will be running at a loss with these projections, but OGT and IGT will be running at a surplus as well. All of that, yes. So how does this mean for New York City? That means that IGV is losing $1,400. It is a pilot program, so this is not concerning so much as because as you see here, our expenses is 2203.33, revenue is 2875. That's with account delivery of 1,800. That means that we are investing $81 per EP that comes here, just for clarification, and then general allocation of this of $2,000. So it depends on how risk averse you want to be. This 1,400 to me is not. It's a red flag that we're not doing enough to make to break even. However, seeing the New York City budget, it isn't as concerning in the sense that since it is a pilot program and it is an investment over time, we do 23 now with a 1,400 loss. However, next year, potentially, this could be gained back, plus we would be running out of profit, assuming this 23 becomes more, and this affiliation and this royalty is not 0.5. Right now, as you see, if it wasn't 0.5, we'd be running barely a profit, but still, it's these things that you need to understand. The IGE and OG ones are the more concerning since that's $5,000, and they are smaller in terms of how much we've actually done. So this would be a conversation that I would have with my VP Finance and GE responsibles to see, is this a thing that we should be worried about, and how can we get there? Now, what does that mean? Are they negative? 3 of them. Which ones? We already explained. And how do we cut losses? How do we cut costs? But also, how do we invest more? Because a lot of the time we can say, yeah, sure, let's cut expenses. But on the contrary, you can also invest more. This would be for people who understand return on investment. If you don't know what has a high return, don't invest more. Understand that first, so you know how to invest. So let's say Facebook ads, I double it, and then that gives me 5 more exchanges. I added more money to my debt, but it also brought in more revenue, which made me then run out of profit. It's very data centric and very analytical. Knowing your budget and all of that, this is what your VP Finance should live and breathe. This budget, this budget, and then just understand what's happening. And then I believe that is all. Nope, I'm not. This is a function per function budgeting tool. Just look at it, give it to all of your functions. You can see how much is allocated, how much they spend, how much they haven't spent. Gives them more autonomy and more speed and agility in spending. And if you do trust your VP Finance, you can always make it faster by saying, if it's below this amount of money, don't even tell me about it. Just put it on the budget. If it's below Y, then tell me about it, but you don't need my permission. If it's above Y, then there needs to be a conversation. Just understand return on investment, return on your return on investment, understand your budget as a whole and what these numbers actually mean, and understand how you can make finance the core of like we always think how exchanges, how can we get more exchanges? Finance is a great way to get there, just because if you understand Facebook ads, here, spending money on this will get you more exchanges. How much, what is it all like? You have here networking events. Have we had success with that? Understanding this is a great way to get more exchanges at the end of the day. It doesn't always have to be volume, because you can do a lot of something that doesn't work, or you can do a lot of something that does work, and you can only differentiate that if you understand this and return on investment and all of that. So that is all I have for you in terms of budgeting. I hope you all get a chance to look at your own budgets and break it down, understand where everything is coming from, start tracking all of that stuff. Thank you. I will see you all at EBCO. Woo!